Said you're not a tech guy though, but how does someone who doesn't call himself a tech end up the VP and you took a company from $350,000 to $4 million? How does that happen?
I guess just being a pretty big team player and a company guy, moving from a really large company like I was at to a small company was a little bit of a shock. And so on day one, I walked in, I was like, oh Lord, what have I done? This was a bad decision.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the MSP Pipeline. I'm your host, Kyle First, and today I'm with Chris Harper, the Vice President at MicroPulse Technologies. Chris, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. I want to rewind the clock a little bit because your story doesn't start at MicroPulse. It starts with a decision to walk away from a stable job at just 26 years old. You already put in 4 years at a big company before MicroPulse. So what was the actual reason you were willing to walk away?
Yeah, I just felt like at that company, I worked for a really large company and they did a great job of training me, pouring into me, developing me, teaching me like how business worked. But I wanted to when I came in at the beginning, I said, I want to be in sales. And they said, well, we only promote from within. So you got to start on the base floor and kind of work your way up. And 4 years in, like they actually said that normally it's about a 1 year runway, but that was during like the .com bubble bursting. It was kind of pre-Y2K when I started, so things were blowing and going, and then I transitioned through. So I was actually fortunate just to keep a job, but I felt like I'd been there for a while and that I was getting passed over for opportunities. So I finally was just like, I've got to just take a chance and a leap of faith and go out and do what I think is right for me.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you took that leap knowing it meant cutting your own pay down to a third of what you were making. So what did you tell yourself in the weeks before you made that call?
I really didn't think about the pay at all. I was so hungry for the opportunity. I mean, I shouldn't say I didn't think about it at all because that'd be a lie, but it was a minor factor. At the time, I was fairly newly married and young. My wife had a good job. She was extremely supportive. She was actually the one that planted the seed that I needed to leave. And so she fortunately had really good benefits, a good job. We didn't have a whole lot of financial commitments. So it was kind of one of those, I should just go ahead and do this now while the opportunity's here. And I was just so hungry to get out and get into sales because it's what I had, even in college, I had done sales jobs. I had a marketing degree. And so I was just really, really hungry for that. And I had developed a little bit of a chip on my shoulder too, just for, kind of getting passed over. So I was like, I'm going to show these guys, sort of.
I love it. You got to have a chip on your shoulder. It makes you a big man.
Yeah. Got me through a lot.
You said you're not a tech guy though, but how does someone who doesn't call himself a tech end up the VP and you took a company from $350,000 to $4 million? How does that happen?
I guess just being a pretty big team player and a company guy, moving from a really large company like I was at to a small company was a little bit of a shock and something different. I mean, the first small business that I started at, when I first started there, like on day one, I walked in, I was like, oh Lord, what have I done? This was a bad decision. But with that little chip on my shoulder, I was kind of like, you know what, you can't go back now. You just got to make it work. So I would just do anything and everything. I was creating marketing collateral. I was making sales calls. I was developing out our CRM system. Hell, I even did one of the projects or two that we landed because they were real simple things. So I just dove in and did the work because we didn't have a whole lot of people at the time. So I was basically just trying to do whatever I could to be successful, like both me and the business, because I felt like there was no turning back or I wasn't going to allow failure to happen. And so I really immersed myself in the business too. I was fortunate, like I worked with two technical guys. So if we went on meetings or sales calls or a road trip or something, I would just sit in the car and just pump them full of questions. What does this mean? What does that mean? How does this work? What does this do? How can we incorporate that into a proposal or a service? So I was fortunate to work with some really sharp guys and some really patient guys that taught me a lot about the business. And so, I still don't understand a lot of the in-depth technologies, but I think I at least understand enough about, after doing it for a while, where our guys are coming from, what they're going through, how to talk with them, how to empathize and help them out to a certain degree. And so I think that's really helped.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a great, thing you have going over there. And but when you joined MicroPulse, it was primarily a VAR. So what drove the decision to expand into managed services? And what opportunity do you see in building out that side of the business?
Yeah, that's a good question. So really, we just started doing this a couple of years ago. So it's been a dream or a goal of mine for a while to add a managed services component, because we were already doing IT and some telecom voice related work. And so I always thought, well, managed services is just complementary to that. And there were a few different reasons that I thought it might be good for us. One is just it's an additional service that we can offer a segment that we're not even addressing right now. But then also on our pro services side, at the time, our guys were averaging about 22 years of experience. So they were very, very experienced. So I thought managed services would actually be another good way if we bring in younger people, that we would have a pipeline then to feed them in to the pro services. They would work with us for a while, build up some knowledge, and be a known quantity. So I thought that would be kind of a cool idea. But essentially, it was a goal that I had for a while, and then an opportunity presented itself where a managed service company was actually going out of business, and we knew them pretty well. And so they called us up and said, hey, we need to refer a couple of places to our clients. We're shutting things down. So we actually picked up some of their clients. We picked up some of their technicians and their director. And then we started kind of making a run at it there. So it was good timing,
Definitely. That's great. How does growing a project-based VAR business differ from growing a recurring revenue MSP?
Yeah, that's been fun, because it's like, oh, it's all IT services. How much different can it be? So on the VAR side, typically our clients are larger. They're more in the weeds technologically. So we're talking more bits and bytes and speeds and feeds. And so the one thing I've noticed in retrospect is that market segment was smaller and they were more technical. So for me, it was easier. It was a more targeted group. And I was used to talking that language, or we were used to talking that language. So if I went to a party and people said, what do you do for work? I would just say technology, because most of the time they're not in technology. And if I start geeking out like I did with a client, they would just space out and just go, forget I asked. But now that we have this MSP business, when I start talking to people, it's different. Normally we're looking for business leaders, decision makers, CEOs, CFOs, line of business managers. And so now like everybody's a prospect. So now I'm using different language. They're using a different side of their brain. They're less interested in bits and bytes. So I had to get out of that mode of talking like features and technology and talk more about what it can do, big picture, what it can do for the business, how it can make their lives easier. And then just with the sales cycles being different, I think their relationships are important in both. But a lot of times on the managed services side, like on the VAR side, it's more what I call like whining and dining. Like it takes a little while sometimes, and you're doing a lot of proactive sales efforts, not knowing when you're going to get a return. I had some clients that I sold to for 10 years before they ever bought anything from me. So sometimes I joke that may say something about my sales ability, but but on the managed service side, a lot of times we're coming into things they're hot, I've got to make this change. I don't like my provider, or I've got a guy here and he's not cutting it, or we had a cyber attack. And so sometimes the sales cycles are faster. They're more competitive. They're less based on a past relationship where I'm used to like spending time and grinding it out. And it's more like we got to turn stuff fast. We've got to give some really good data. We've got to make a quick, impression. And so it's just been a little bit different, both conversationally and in the sales cycle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely want to get into the sales cycle right now, is because I want to get a little surgical. I want to reverse engineer exactly how you are growing MicroPulse's pipeline. Walk me through your last 10 clients, where they actually came from.
Yeah, so some of those came from that acquisition, we call it, even though it wasn't a true acquisition. Most of them come from referrals. So if I went back to the last 10, I would say a lot of those came from referrals. One thing that we recognized pretty early on is one way to grow our client base is a guy leaves this company and goes to this company, and we're servicing him over here. We keep servicing the company that he came from, and then we have a good relationship with him, and we start servicing him over in the new company. So that is a strategy that probably is a sales strategy. I don't hear it talked about a lot, but we kind of figured out early on. We're not really good at asking for referrals, but the good thing is I think we do high quality work, so we just get referrals. So those are usually the main ways. We have done more events lately, and we do a lot of prospecting and cold calling, and I feel like we're pretty good at that. So we do pick up a lot of clients from that method, but a lot of those are ones that, again, they take a while to develop, because it takes a while just to get them on the phone, and then it takes a while just to get a meeting, and then you kind of have to work through the process there. So a lot of them have originally come from prospecting and cold calling, and then it kind of got more into referrals. And we have a lot of partners too that help us out. The Microsofts and Dells of the world, Fortinet, sometimes they'll have leads that they feed us, and that will blossom that into a bigger relationship than just the thing that they needed at that point in time. So
definitely. I mean, it seems like you guys are trying a little bit of everything, which is awesome. But like, what would you say, like roughly what percentage comes from each today? What comes from cold calling, referrals, strategic partnerships? Like,
great question. And I actually have a spreadsheet that I can find around here somewhere to tell you that. I would say the biggest amount probably does come from those employees that move from point A to point B. And then the second comes from referrals. I'm kind of going from memory here. And I want to say the third actually comes from those partners that send us referral, or, that send us leads. So a lot of times we are able to take those. It might be a small lead. It might be Fortinet saying these people need a firewall, but we start talking to them about a whole project around that, or their server needs, or a full-blown managed service or something to that effect. So those are probably the top three in that order.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, but you guys are rooted in Alabama, but you've got clients in like 20 states, right? So
we do.
What actually changes in your sales process when you're closing a deal in Alabama versus, in one state that you've never stepped foot in,
Yeah. So we've been fortunate that a lot of those deals have been kind of organic like that. They've been somebody that's moved that knows us. We're a known quantity. Some of them have been M&A activities, mergers and acquisitions. Some of them actually been divestitures, where we have a large company that's spinning off a small business unit and letting them go out and operate on their own. So pretty much all of those have been referral based. And then the other ones have come from those partners. So, if you've got somebody like Microsoft recommending you, that carries a lot more weight. People might not know who MicroPulse is, but they know who Microsoft is. So we just work them like any other deal. We give them the same love and attention. We just can't do it face to face. And then some of those have actually grown into pretty big customers. So then we start nurturing them like as if they were here, but it's just that we're doing it more. And, particularly since the pandemic and, video collaboration and stuff like that growing, it's made it a lot easier. And people have gotten more used to, I think, dealing with somebody who's not in their backyard. That was another thing that really opened our eyes. We tried an office in Austin, Texas for a while. And that was right before the pandemic, but kind of through all that, we learned, well, we don't really have to be, we had it stuck in our head. Like we need to be able to get in front of people. And through that, we were like, we really don't have to. I mean, there's some additional challenges, but we can work through them. So
I like that. Like what would you say between a warm referral and a cold call? How different is your close rate?
A lot higher on a warm referral for sure, but I'm pretty sick in that I still enjoy cold calling. It's a fun challenge.
Me too. I feel that. I love it. But from the first conversation to a signed client on your main channel, how long does that sales cycle usually actually run?
So we don't have terribly great metrics on that right now, but that's actually something we're working on. But I would say on the managed services side, it's usually pretty quick, like weeks to months, because most of the time right now they're coming in via some sort of a lead. On the other side of the house, from a new customer, it would be more like months to years, So I know I'm giving you real rough, vague terms, but right now for us, the managed services side is a lot quicker. But then there's always exceptions to the rule. Like we do have one that we're working right now where a customer left where he was that we were doing good work for on the VAR side. He actually went to a former client that we quit doing business with, and that's gonna move pretty quickly. I mean, that's probably gonna be a 1 month sales cycle, but even on meeting one, we knew like this was gonna happen. We're just trying to get the signed quote right now. And then on the managed services side, sometimes we do have clients that kind of start out hot and heavy and then they just go cold for a while. So it kind of flip-flops, but in general, MSP is a little bit shorter for us right now.
Yeah, fair enough. And, like what tools or systems does your team rely on every day to, keep these opportunities moving?
So we use ConnectWise heavily, big ConnectWise shop. That's actually how we got into the peer group that we're in. So We use PSA for our CRM and for pipelining and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And that's the thing that I said we're revamping right now. We're really going in deep and trying to get better like dashboards and data output, because we're kind of going from, you know, being a smaller company, there's a lot of muscle and feel, to a little bit more structured and data driven. So we're in that transition right now. We also use their CPQ for quoting, which used to be called Sell, so a product that they bought. We have recently started using MailChimp for marketing related activities in the last year or so, but MailChimp's really more of just like an email campaigning tool. ConnectWise carries the, you know, the bulk of like our sales and marketing activities. So.
Definitely. You know, but like one thing, after talking to a lot of MSP owners, is that building a sales process is a lot harder than people think, right? Most founders are great technicians, but sales is a completely different skill set. When you look back, what was the hardest part about building a repeatable sales engine?
Probably the hardest part is actually like making it repeatable where other people like will adopt it and use it. Because I actually had to start building one at my first VAR job, because I didn't have one. Like I came in and they had some Word documents and Excel spreadsheets, and I was like, I can't do this. Like I came from a big company that had a lot of formal processes and procedures. So I immediately started putting in a CRM and a pipelining system and a way to track that, but it was just me using it. So it was just whatever suited my needs. And then as we started growing and adding people, other people have different ideas. Their brain doesn't work the same way that I do. You know, they have different needs. And so trying to kind of make everybody happy and have like a one size fits all system and get everybody to adopt and use that system has been the biggest challenge. Cause I'm not the kind of guy that comes in and goes, you need to do it this way or else. I don't think that's very motivating. So I'm trying to use more positive encouragement. Like, this is why you should do it. But I'm also, I still practice a little bit on the sales side, and I'm a realist, and I don't want to kind of burden my people with systems that are so cumbersome. I always say, like, if you're in internal meetings, you're not out, you know, like selling and dealing with customers. And if you're documenting, you're not doing that either. Documentation and internal meetings are a very important part of the job, but I just want to keep that as minimal and streamlined as possible, but still collect the data points that we need so that when I'm sitting down with them and they're having a problem, I can help them figure out, like, here's where it's falling apart, you know, or here's where you need some improvement or some help.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, as you said, you know, the company has grown, but as the company has grown, what would you say has become harder? Is it the opportunities or turning those opportunities into actual customers?
So are you asking, are the opportunities harder to come by or turning them into customers?
Generating opportunities.
No, I don't. I mean, we have some really good people. So I wouldn't say it's harder. I would say it's more uncomfortable for me because I am not involved in the process every day and I don't know the details. Like when we were small, used to, if things were slowed down, like our president started out as one of our engineers that was delivering, right? Because he has a technical background. So, and then as we grew, we had a few people, but not a lot. And I was still really heavily involved in sales. And so he would be like, hey, the techs are kind of slow or numbers are looking a little bit soft. And I'd be like, oh, well, let me stop kind of managing and maintaining my accounts. Let me go out and make some sales calls and, you know, give me, you know, 2 or 3 months and you'll see a difference. And it really was like that. It was like, I'd kind of like filled our pipeline. So I was kind of sitting back and, you know, I didn't want to overfill it because I wanted us to be able to deliver. And also when you're running really hard, it's nice to just step back and take a breath for a minute. So I would do more like maintenance and improvement and kind of proactive type stuff. But then I would get that message and I'd go, okay, let me go run again. Well, now I have a team of people and I can't just say, give me a couple of months and I'll go do it myself. And I know what the outcome's going to be. I have to kind of get with them and work with them. And a lot of them are already doing all they can anyways. They're not splitting duties like I was, you know, they're full-time salespeople. So yeah, it's just a little bit different. It just feels like there's less control and visibility into what's going on, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, what does a healthy pipeline actually look like? You know, like, how do you know your team is on track before revenue numbers actually show up?
Yeah, so we actually have our pipeline that we report kind of to management, which would be like mostly me and my boss, our president. But then we have like a secondary pipeline and we do a sales huddle. We just trimmed it from twice a week to once a week in an effort to keep people out of long meetings. And in that, it's different numbers. It's things that are further out down the road, not things that are kind of quoting and really hot and moving. And so we watch both of those and we kind of triangulate them. Sometimes you'll see one go up and the other one going down. Sometimes you'll see them both going up, both going down. So we sort of watch both of those.
Yeah,
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. It's a good answer right there, Chris. But I understand you guys are dipping into marketing for the first time now, right? So how's it gone so far?
It's gone good. We just started that about a year to year and a half ago. We hired somebody that had some experience, but I never thought about this. She had experience marketing like retail, so like to an end consumer, not business to business marketing. So she had a lot of skills and great like attitude, perseverance, like really hard worker. So I think we really like made a good hire, kind of got lucky. Somebody that came in and just hit the ground running. She didn't mind like taking charge of things once she kind of understood, what needed to be done and what was expected. So it's really been a good result. And coming from a place that had, I would say, no marketing person and limited marketing, it was like a shared responsibility that nobody actually took responsibility for. It was just light years ahead of what we could have expected. So now we're like trying to fine tune and we're trying to add things and tweak things. And so it's been a good experience. I feel like it's getting better. And I do like too that we're still small enough that we can sit down and work with each other. And I can go, we need to talk to people in this way. And I'm working with a person that's going to be doing the talking, and they can kind of adjust the message based on that. Because again, we still have, like, we're redoing our website right now, and we need part of our website to address really technical people in large organizations. And then we need another part to address like business people in kind of more of a managed services style. So like getting them to understand the two different languages and that we have to have those two is it's been good.
Yeah, definitely. Completely understand that. Let's say if you had $1 more to spend on growth tomorrow, right? Would you put that into marketing, sales, or somewhere else?
$1 more on growth. That's a good question. I feel like just based on where we're at right now, we put a lot into sales and marketing. So I would probably put that dollar into either like delivery or something more operational on the technical side. So I do feel like we've built up a pretty good sales and marketing engine that should last us for a while here. And so I don't want to overwhelm the technical team. And we're actually making some changes there right now. Like we've actually put, dollars over into that side where we're building more leadership skills, and we just move someone into like more of a project management role to actually get better at managing projects. Because, you do good work, then that's going to yield more work. So to me, that's a way that we can generate more business, is just do good work,
Yeah, love that. But every growing company reaches a point where one person can't carry the entire sales effort anymore, right? So what made MicroPulse realize it was time to build a more structured sales process instead of relying on one person to drive the growth?
Yeah, we actually started that a long time ago in early days. So I'm going to say maybe 3 years in or something like that.
Okay.
Our president, he's very, very forward thinking, and he's a really good communicator. So I've always been fortunate. I mean, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to work with him, is that he's always thinking ahead, and he's always strategizing, and he's always coming to me and going, hey, I got this idea. What do you think about it? Or let's talk about this topic. And it's kind of cool because he may bring something to me that he's really jazzed about, and I'm like, no, that's not going to work. And he's just like, sometimes we'll talk it out, and sometimes we go his way, and sometimes we go mine. And then other times, I'll be able to bring ideas to him that he might not, have been thinking of. So it's just been really collaborative. So in the early days, we just were able to have some good conversations about like, we want to keep this thing moving forward. And at some point, we know we're going to tap out. Now, I know, or I will say that if you back up to that time, there's a book called The E-Myth. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but early on, he found out about that book. And there were 3 owners at the time, and we all read that. And the concept was basically like, you're a great technician. I think it's actually written by somebody who was in IT, and all your friends go, man, you're really good at what you do. You should start a company. But then like it was him and one other guy that started a company. And as it started to grow, they realized, okay, we can't just be great techs anymore. We actually have to figure out how to run a business. So we read that early on and kind of embraced that philosophy that we can't just like stay in the lane that we're in and keep growing and just muscle our way through it all. So we realized we need to have more salespeople. We need to have more processes and things like that. And so it's just been an evolution. It's just built over the last, whatever, 15 plus years, I would say. So.
Nice. I love that. Right. And how involved are you in the sales process today? Like, are you still in those first meetings, closing deals, or are you mostly just doing the coaching behind the scenes?
I would say on the VAR side of things, mostly coaching behind the scenes. We have a really good client base there. Like I say, that's a lot of referrals. So the sales reps that I have now, most of them have been here for a while. They know our business, they know our clients. There's a comfort level. So that's more coaching. Usually on those, I'll play almost more like a pre-sales engineer role, which can be pretty dangerous. I can tap out pretty quickly, but if our engineers are busy, maybe somebody wants to know about, a SAN, I can articulate some things a little bit better. But I try not to do that unless I really need to. On the MSP side, it's a little bit different because we're still figuring things out a little bit. We're still finding our way, and we're still trying to develop some of those processes and procedures. And I try not to be an owner-led sales organization, but I also understand that, like, when you're talking to a business owner or a CFO or CEO, they like that, like, owner to owner type interaction. Like, it's just different to them, and you can get questions answered and things done, and there's just a different comfort and respect level. And I almost hate saying that, but I think it's the honest to God's truth, and they tell us that in all these peer groups. So I'm still more involved in that side right now, but what I'm trying to do is coach people up as fast as possible and basically start the process and then get out as quick as I can, because I don't want, like, clients to just get tied to me specifically, because I won't always be there. And these other people will do. I mean, I've recognized that, like, while some of them may not know all the answers that I know, they will do a better job at servicing that client than I will. They'll be more responsive. They'll be more caring. They'll be more forward thinking and proactive. Whereas I'm just kind of reacting to whatever's, needed at the time. So it's been pretty easy. It's a different process, but I like to try to bring those guys in and have them run with it as fast as possible.
I love that. And, like, most MSP owners are just straight technical. They're not always that salesperson. But what's, like, the biggest mistake you see technical founders make when they're trying to grow actual revenue?
A couple of things. I think one is that a lot of them think if we're just great techs, or if we have great tech, like in our stack, that'll be enough. So now I would say that one is probably less common than one of the common things that I find in some of the people that I'm closer to in this business is, especially in the, like, younger MSPs or younger tech companies, is that they try sales by hiring someone, but they don't give them the tools and the time needed to be successful, and they get frustrated. So they're just constantly frustrated, and they're constantly churning. Like, I've learned here, if I'm going to hire a salesperson, if they're not going to stay with me for a year, like, they may as well not even start, because all we're going to do is just waste each other's time. I mean, it ends up getting deep technically, and it ends up getting to deep business conversations, and people have to get to know you and trust you, which they're not going to do just right out of the gate on a first meeting. And so there's just a lot to it. And so I think a lot of small business owners, especially if they're technically minded, they think, well, sales is easy. They don't recognize that there's an actual process there, and that if you follow the process, that you'll get better results. And so they'll try something for a little bit. It doesn't work. They get rid of them, and they hire again. They try it for a little bit. It doesn't work. They get rid of them. Or maybe I talked to a girl the other day that she's on her boss is on their third CRM system this year.
Wow.
And I was like, how do you even get your job done when you're constantly changing CRMs? So to me, another part of those, like all CRMs suck in certain ways. So you just got to make it work for you. It's nothing's going to be perfect. So, just roll with it and make it work.
No, I love that. I love that thing. It's actually perfect, Chris. But what do you think separates those MSPs that double in size from the ones that stay exactly where they are?
Good quality work comes in mind for sure. You just can't. If you're just mediocre, you're just going to stay in that smaller size. And then the second thing I think is the ones that are intentional about growth. Because, I mean, we've definitely gone through periods where we weren't intentional about growth. Like, we got comfortable, we kind of loafed a little bit, and we were doing good quality work. So we weren't going backwards. We were just flat, from year to year. But once we got more intentional about it and said, we're going to grow again, and here's how we're going to do it, then it started happening. So, and then I think also just having a positive mindset, because a lot of people can be, tend to run pessimistic, negative, look at the dark side of things. I've got a lot of technical friends that, they're just always fearful of their job, fearful of the economy. And it's not just technical people. A lot of people just operate that way. But I think one of the things early on that worked in my favor is I was just naive and a lot of dumb luck. I didn't know that some of the things I was doing were like just things that weren't successful. I'd be calling on accounts that didn't make any sense and talking to people that didn't make any sense. But I was just so hungry to try to get something going. And so I would just do anything. And I guess that's, maybe a good point to make sometimes is just do something, just try something, like don't worry about failure. You're going to fail. We're all going to fail. Don't fail so miserably that you take the entire company down or destroy your home life. But, if you mess up a deal, you mess up a deal, just move on or, so yeah, it's a few things that come to mind. So.
Yeah, definitely. I love those thoughts, stay positive, keep going. I love it. I love those thoughts. And I want to get into the rapid fire now, Chris. Let's do this.
All right.
So, like I said, first answer that comes to mind, rapid fire. Don't think, just answer.
Okay.
All right. First question. First meeting in person or on Zoom?
Blue. No, I'm kidding. In person for sure.
Referral or cold outreach?
I mean, I got to go referral, but I still like cold outreach.
All right. Relationship or process?
Ooh, relationship.
One sales book every MSP owner should read.
Ooh, now you're getting real tough. How about Getting Naked? I just read that and I love it.
Getting Naked. Love the title of the book. One habit every successful salesperson has.
Bam fam, book a meeting from a meeting.
Nice. One thing MSP owners waste too much time on.
Worrying.
Like that. AI makes salespeople more valuable or replaces average salespeople.
Makes them more valuable.
If you had to build $1 million pipeline from zero tomorrow, what's the very first thing you would do?
Put a CRM system in place.
What's one belief about sales that you think is completely wrong?
Oh, the salespeople are slimy. And a lot of them are, but I think the good ones aren't.
All right, I like that. Finish the sentence. The companies that win over the next 5 years are the ones that blank.
Use AI responsibly.
Nice. Like that. That was great, Chris. Great rapid fire. All right. So this is our final question, though, of the show. It's like my favorite question, though. It's like you're the guy who cut his pay down to a third and walked into MicroPulse at 26, not knowing where it would go. If you sat down with him today, what's one thing you would tell him?
I would actually say do exactly what you did. Like, I really think it was the best career move I could have ever made. And it was one of those naivety career moves. But I would say, I don't think I would say do something different. I would say good job for not being scared and almost for being stubborn and not willing to turn back. Because the whole job actually called me and tried to bring me back. And it would have been an easy, okay, this is safe. So, yeah, don't play it safe. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
I love it. Go big or go home. That's what I say.
Yep, that's right.
Like that. But that's exactly why this show exists. Pull the real numbers, have a real growth story. You're not chasing an acquisition. You're building this thing to last. So, Chris, where can people find you in MicroPulse?
So the company in general, you can hit us up on the web at micropulsetech.com, which is MicroPulsetech.com. We also got a LinkedIn page, company and myself. As far as reaching me directly, you can hit me up through the office here, 205-912-8800, or through my email, chris.harper, and that's HARPER at micropulsetech.com.
All right, awesome. But that's the episode. Follow the MSP Pipeline wherever you're watching. We'll see you next week for another teardown. Thank you very much, Chris, for being here today.
Appreciate it.